We'll start with roll call.
Director Assad Lucas.
Here.
Director Battistelli.
Here.
Director Goldstein.
Here.
Director Marsh Holshin.
Here.
Director Potter.
Here.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Director Assad Lucas.
Aye.
Director Battistelli.
Aye.
Excuse me. Director Goldstein.
Aye.
Director Marsh Holshin.
Aye.
Director Potter.
Aye.
Now I'll entertain a motion to recess for an executive session to discuss specialized details of security arrangements pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute 24-6-4024D.
So moved.
Second. Director Assad Lucas.
Aye.
Director Battistelli.
Aye.
Director Goldstein.
Aye.
Director Marsh Holshin.
Aye.
Director Potter.
Aye.
All right, we are now in recess. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Reconvene from our executive session because I already called it to order. So, rise if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, we'll start with the Deputy Superintendent comments.
Great. Thank you very much. On behalf of the superintendent and his cabinet colleagues, I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about Pat Hamilton. So as board members, as you are aware, this is Pat's last Board of Education meeting. He is currently our Chief Operating Officer and has served Adams 12 proudly for 23 years. And I just really wanted to take an opportunity to thank him for his leadership, for his dedication to the student, staff, and community here in Adams 12. You heard me earlier today to talk about under Pat's leadership. I believe that there are so many different aspects of Adams 12 and departments within Adams 12 that have grown and prospered under his leadership. And I want him to know really clearly, especially since Chris is not here this evening, how much he is valued, how much he is respected, and how much he will be missed. So, Mr. Hamilton, thank you so very much for your service to Adams 12. We wish you all the very best that life has to offer. And remember, we know where you are.
Well, while we're on the subject of Mr. Pat Hamilton, I was telling Priscilla how I met you 23 years ago, and it was not at a school function. It wasn't in a school. I was a teacher at North Glen Middle, and were you risk management or something like that? And kind of needed a little help that night. I was at a concert with a girlfriend, and there was somebody that was just bothering us. And I always have to chuckle and laugh with Pat about this one. Well, he wasn't listening to us, but he listened to Pat. So thank you, Pat, 23 years later, and thank you for everything you've done for Adams 12 ever since. All right, so we'll start with Board of Education comments, recognition, awards, and vision. We'll start on the end with Director Potter.
I will keep it brief, but I will start by echoing what these fine women have said about you, Mr. Pat Hamilton. Your passion for these kids is tremendous. It is inspiring, and I hope that whoever comes next can fill the big shoes that you're leaving behind. I'm confident that they can, but you are still going to be greatly missed in Adams 12. So thank you for everything that you do. As far as an update goes, I was able to attend with President Goldstein today the Gold Star recognition of Stargate Charter School. It's where my kids attend. They are safe to tell certified now, like they've gone above and beyond to express, not express, I'm sorry. They've gone above and beyond to educate their parents, their students, their community members on kind of what Safe to Tell is, how to use it. And it was a great honor to be involved in that today, watching them get that award. And I'm extremely proud of all the hard work that all of our safety teams do across the district.
Thank you. Director Marsh-Holston.
Thank you, and congratulations to you, Pat, and great 23 years. I attended the CASB Winter Conference with Director Goldstein, and it was a great legislative conference to go to the Capitol, to talk to our legislators about funding for education and how that is going to look and how important that is, as well as other bills that were going through at the time. I think, once again, the highlight of the conference was the student panel. And I asked them, as just selfishly as a mom, you know, what do I do with my kids when they become tweens about technology and giving them access to social media? And they all resoundingly said no. do not hold it off as long as possible, which I thought was really interesting. And they just had really, really great insight in how they think they can get their students to interact with the board, and how boards and all staff at schools should be and need to be interacting with them, because they feel, when they are heard, how much safer they feel. We had our March 6th meeting at Vantage Point, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but I think another piece that highlighted again is, that we need to listen to students when they talk. They're willing to say, no, this isn't a good idea, or you gave us too much access to this. And maybe they can't do it at a high level for all students across the board, but they can set some ideas in our mind. And I think they have some really good points. That was a really great meeting. I attended the National Breakfast Week at Prairie Hills, which I had no idea was probably one of the slickest breakfast lines. I was in and out pretty quickly. They have it down there, and all the kids were choosing recycling or composting, and they knew what to do. And so there was very little help they needed from me, but that was really great to be there. And then I was able to attend at Century Middle School for one of their WIN classes, which is a lot about social emotional learning, and they were presenting to the Colorado Education Initiative. So I was able to hear their presentation and the excited work they were doing, and then actually sit in on a WIN presentation, which was really exciting. And I kept saying, I think it's so great that they just sat there and they had to talk, so they started talking. It's a really easy way to just say, I'll just sit back and not participate. And these kids knew they had to talk, and they did, and they did a really, really great job. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Director Bastidelli?
So usually I share a quote, at least that's what I started doing in January. And this month, for Women's History Month, I wanted to do something a little different. Instead of sharing past voices, I reached out to Raquel Williams and Marie McKenzie and asked them to help me organize some quotes from our current educators, women educators, to recognize them during Women's History Month. So I have a couple I'm going to read, and they were just sent a few questions to respond to. And then I think Amira is going to help me out by reading a couple of more, because we want to make sure their wonderful voices are heard. So the first question was generally around why did they opt to be educators? Why do they educate? So the first person said, I'm a school counselor because I have been through some things personally and was so thankful for the counselors who helped me in life. I want to be that person for someone else. I found my way into schools in my career and really enjoy being able to help students work through issues and figuring out life goals. I have zero clue or direction in how to plan for life after high school growing up. Now my favorite part of my job is seeing the happiness when students realize they have power in their choices, and help them realize their strengths and how those strengths will support them in their future career choices. The next question was about, what does it mean to you to teach as a woman or educate as a woman? And this person wrote, with intersectional identities as a woman and a Chicana, I carry historical and political histories in my body, and in my memory, both conscious and subconscious. It means that I seek to enact pedagogies of freedom and dignity. It means that my role as an educator is political if I resist the structures that have sustained educational castes. So, beautiful, wonderful statements. I hope to share more over the next couple of board meetings. The next thing I wanted to talk about was I had the opportunity to visit Eagleview Elementary. I didn't report at our last board meeting because I wasn't ready, on February 27th, and I was also able to shadow an elementary school teacher, kindergarten teacher in her class. And I toured the school with Lori and Jamie. Jamie Miller and Lindy Peterson, the principal and vice principal, gave us a tour. Afterwards, like I said, I was able to shadow a kindergarten teacher, and she was teaching about professions, namely being a chef, which is a lot of fun because then you get to talk about food. So Eagleview, what I've noticed is that it's a sizable school compared to previous elementary schools I've been at. It also has an SLS program, structured learning supports, for students who are primarily on the autism spectrum or who have issues really similar to being on the autism spectrum. My overall impression is that Mr. Miller and Ms. Peterson have a professional and focused group of of educators who work hard to ensure that students receive a consistent and effective curriculum. There was a lot of alignment throughout the courses as we were touring them. In the kindergarten classroom, the day was a bit anomalous because a snow squall blew through that day. It's the first time we'd ever had one in Denver, I think, in ages. And the kids had to remain inside for recess. I watched as Mrs. Brecht and her mother worked to meet the needs of several kids all at once, including a child on an advanced learning plan and a child who was new to the English language. The lesson unit I observed, like I said, was around professions. She and the kids talked through the profession of a chef, what chefs do and what they cook. Then the kids wrote sentences describing 3 traits from a chef that they wished to cover. The kids were working hard on writing out big words and phrases, which I loved, like something yummy and lasagna. They were great kids, and I thank Mrs. Brecht sincerely for inviting me into her classroom space. It was great to get a sense of a day in the life of a kindergarten teacher and her students. And then I also visited Tarver Elementary, and on that day, March 12th, and I was able to shadow both the principal and student monitors. The principal, Mr. Boyke, took me for a tour through the school, noting that this school offered a significant support needs program. I was able to meet 2 of the very charming kids in that space. Mr. Boyke also took me through the classrooms to see a few teachers at work, and I was able to view a math intervention lesson with a group of kids who are doing a wonderful job working on the task at hand. I observed the interventionist take the students through subtracting a 3-digit number from another 3-digit number by using math manipulatives. I'd always heard of math manipulatives. I'd never seen them used, so that was great. And it was interesting to see how she used those physical objects to help students really understand the concept of subtraction in a tangible way. I also helped to monitor 1st grade lunch and recess, as well as 2nd grade lunch and recess and part of 5th grade lunch. The lunchroom staff and monitors have a well-oiled machine in place, and I do mean that, for making sure kids come in to get their lunch and make their way outside in a safe and somewhat orderly manner. At least as orderly as we can expect 1st and 2nd graders to be. Cat herding is the term that comes to mind. But the staff at Tarver are excellent cat herders. In between that monitoring, I was able to meet with 1st grade teachers in their planning period, and we discussed their upcoming reading activity where they would use a March Madness bracket to choose a winning book for the month. There was a very fun March Madness theme throughout the school. My overall impression is that Tarver Elementary is very much a community school. Many of the teachers and staff who work there also have children who attend Tarver. Tarver has few to no monthly rentals in the region, so most people are homeowners. Tarver is a good reminder of how unique each school can be when the curriculum may be consistent across a district. It had its own unique flair and focus, and community was certainly the operative word. In addition, in shadowing, I greatly appreciated seeing firsthand the powerful role that our school monitors, and in this case, also a janitor, play in operations of schools. They help reinforce positive behaviors, and they become trusted adults in the worlds of our children, helping them to navigate school spaces as well as feel like part of a school family. Also, a shout out to my new friends, Allie, Callie, Jacob, Nina, and more. Keep being you.
Thank you. Director Assad Lucas.
So I'm going to start off by reading a couple quotes that Paula has collected to support this great tradition that started. So, as a woman, what does it mean to teach to you? Should I say her name? Okay. So, Marie McKenzie states, teaching as a Black woman here means embodying resilience, empathy, and determination, navigating a system that has historically marginalized me, and still finding the strength to rise by uplifting students with representation and cultural understanding. It's about breaking barriers and insisting in our students the belief that they too can overcome obstacles and achieve greatness despite the systemic challenges we face. Why is equal education for girls at a global level important? So this response is, I believe promoting equal education for girls is crucial for fostering their personal growth and societal advancement. By providing girls with the same educational opportunities as boys, we empower them to explore their interests, develop their talents, and pursue their passions without limitations or biases. When educational environments are free from restrictions and biases, all learners can thrive and reach their full potential. It's essential for educators to create inclusive spaces that encourage curiosity, creativity, and intellectual exploration, regardless of gender. By doing so, we not only benefit individual girls, but also contribute to building a more equitable and prosperous society for all. So, thanks for letting me share those. So I just want to also send my appreciation to you, Pat, for all you do and setting the standard that is that you've set, and that I think so many districts, just not even in Colorado, but throughout the nation, have modeled because of the work you've done. So thank you. And I hope to be able to still see you at events, especially the 5K on your bike, where you can be reunited with Elwood. He will very much appreciate those pets. You probably give him some of the best pets. I got to visit Arapahoe Ridge and Cotton Creek for the National School Breakfast Week. And what I really appreciated about it is the differences of the breakfast services and just the kids served in those schools. Arapahoe Ridge maybe had about 50-ish kids. They said it was pretty consistent. But Cotton Creek had probably almost half the school, if not more, receive, at least for that day, receive breakfast. And yeah, wow, the organization, it's just like, need them to come to my house and help. It was just flawless. So, speaking of the Adams 12 5K, it's on April 20th, so if you have not registered, definitely do that. And yeah, I think that's it. I was hoping to attend a unified basketball game on our snow day, but obviously it was canceled, so I'm hoping to get to one of those still, and if you have not attended one, definitely do so. They're so fun to watch and with great energy. So that is all I have.
Thank you. All right, yeah, so I too went to the CASB Winter Conference. I presented there on how to work with your legislatures, and it wasn't about me, it was about Adams 12 and how we communicate with our legislators, and giving other school district, school board representatives to think about, well, how they can also interact with their legislatures, because, we're their constituents, and they listen to us about things when it comes to public school funding and everything. I actually got to go to NEA's Retired Leadership Conference, since I am a retired NEA member, and there's a lot of retired folks, educators out there that still have a lot to give the education community, and so letting us have opportunities to interact and to share things with each other is a really important thing. Skyview, I went and visited, and Principal Amanda Boyke, and got to walk around the classrooms there and see what's going on in their classrooms. Got to see a little bit of benchmark happening, which is always really good, being that now they're in their second year of utilizing that. I also got to do breakfast. I did it at Thornton High. And it was, I'd gone to Thornton High for lunch last year, so my friends were still there, and they gave me a hairnet and an apron and put me to work. And it was really fun. And they were really excited because they had, for that day, they had these little croissant sandwiches that were whole wheat and ham and cheese, and they were pretty popular. And then, let's see, just real quick. Oh, and then I went to Silver Creek Elementary School the other day, and that was really nice. Darren Oliver had wanted me to see what happens with their team planning that goes on a regular basis. And they're the Eagles, Silver Creek Eagles. And so they have this room. It's in one of the mobiles that they have out there, and it's a space that's not needed for a classroom. It's called the Perch. And you go in there, and it's all set up. It's got tables and chairs, and it's got snacks and refrigerator and all this kind of stuff. And this is where teachers go to do their group data analysis. And they have every student in the school has a sticky note under the grade levels, And when they start out at the beginning of the year, they get a color based on where they're at. So blue's where the top, green is below the blue in terms of performance. Then you have yellow, and then you have red. But that doesn't mean you stay there. So as the year progresses, they're so in tuned to where their kids are at, and they move them up and down the continuum based on where they're performing, and they have a lot of conversations, and then they do have a couple of kids who you might consider to be high flyers, and so they know who those kids are, and it's a nice space away from the rest of the school. I mean, so that they can be uninterrupted during their time that they're doing this. But I think that really embodies how to get your kids, how to know them by name, strength, and need, because they definitely spend a lot of time with data-driven instruction, data-driven analysis of where their kids are. So I really appreciate Darren and Ms. Sampson, Christy, showing me around. And then that's it. So we'll just move on. Bless you. Public comment?
We have no requests this evening.
Okay, on to board business. CEA education update from President of CEA, Ms. Amy Bach-Ohlert.
Hello. Good evening. Amy Bach-Ohlert, Thornton, Silver Creek Elementary, Rocky Top, and Horizon. I have a high schooler now as well. It's always funny coming here because when I was elected CEA Vice President, I was pregnant with my youngest, so I count the time by that. And she'll turn 12 in this summer, and I will term out as CEA president. So I wanted to talk with you all tonight about our ACE fellowship program and just share with you the work that we're doing through this fellowship and kind of where it came from and where we hope it will go. So we have been doing a lot of work around equity in education, as well as doing a lot of work. I think we've talked multiple times about, recruitment and retention, and also about our priorities around diversifying the educator pipeline. Because, our statistics really aren't that great when you look at our statistics for educators of color, especially when you look at our student population. Our educator workforce does not match our student population. And so we know the importance of students having educators who look like them and the impacts that it has on their learning. And so we've done multiple things to, engage with those priorities, again, around recruitment, retention, equity in education, diversifying the educator pipeline. And so one of the things we've done is we've talked multiple times about our all-member survey, and so we've utilized that survey to get data points from our members around multiple things, but also specifically our educators of color about how they feel in our school system, how just basically, how they are treated, how they are perceived. We also did a lot of focus groups, so beyond just, like the written survey, actual focus groups. And it's, again, I think it's one thing to look at like the numbers, but it's another to hear the stories. Like we had one of our educators, a Black male, share his story about how he's a teacher in one of our large metro districts. And when they have, like all district meetings, he can look around the room and he's one of like 3 Black educators in the entire district. And again, this is a large, metro district. And so, and just what that feels like and the experiences. And so, again, took a lot of time just collecting those stories, the data, We've always had a fellowship program at CA. Well, maybe not always, but have for a long time. And really, in this last year, we were redoing our strategic plan. And so I'm sure, like, you all do when you're doing your strategic plan, we had lots of member engagement, lots of stakeholder engagement, going around the state, doing a process to look at, what should our strategic goals be, et cetera. And so one of those goals that came out of the strategic plan was more intentional engagement of our educators of color. And so that, looks like many different things. But one of the things that we decided was that the fellowship really needed to be focused on educators of color. And this was a big shift, making this priority shift for our fellowship because like any large organization, we represent nearly 40,000 educators across the state. It takes a lot to make some of those kind of systemic changes, but it's, something through our processes that we did. And so this is the first year of the ACE Fellowship, which stands for Advocacy, Civil Rights, and Equity, and it's all educators of color. And this is the first year of it, and so it's a lot of design that's happening right now, and we wanted to be intentional about that allowing the educators of color to create the fellowship that was best going to meet their needs, again, their experiences. And so, again, this year, there's a lot of design happening, but there are some things that are already coming out of it that, we're excited to see where this goes. A lot of this, too, is not just about looking at, how do we engage with our districts, with our school communities, but also how do we engage with the union? And for us, really having that internal look, we, too, have to look at our statistics and what's happening. I mean, it's, I was elected as the CEA president in 2018. I'm the first Latina to ever be elected to the CEA. That's pretty sad when you think about it, that, it's took that long. And so we look at, our local presidents, the number that are people of color, it's a very small number. And so part of this fellowship is how do we help our educators of color move into leadership roles within the union as well. And then also we're talking about, how do they interact with their local around, and a lot of this is about like collaboration. How do you create structures within your local for a similar, type group at the local level? How are we working with the district to create spaces for educators of color to address a lot of these things that are coming up, through the fellowship, through the surveys, through the focus groups, and really in a spirit of collaboration, because we want to work with the districts in, creating safe, welcoming spaces for educators of color. Again, with the goal of recruiting more educators of color, but also retaining the educators of color that we have, because one of the biggest things that we heard through the survey and focus group work is the isolation that educators of color feel, and also this burden where they feel that they have to be, the ones always explaining or telling the stories. We heard a lot where like educators of color, oftentimes by like our Black educators, that, students of color will be sent to them for discipline. And, one of our educators who's actually a school social worker, he was talking about how all the students of color would be sent to him for discipline, and that is not his role. His role is, to be supporting students in their mental health. And so, just breaking through some of that stigma and, again, working in collaboration with our districts, our school leadership to, again, create those safe and welcoming spaces. So I just wanted to lift that up tonight around the, the work we're doing around equity and really trying to impact our, our numbers of educators of color, especially when it comes to recruitment and retention. So that is my sharing for this evening. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thanks. Any questions?
more just a comment than a question, but that when we were doing the equity work here in Anatole, that was also heard from students. Yes. And educate, but students themselves, like, it would be nice to see somebody who looked like me. Yep.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yes, we have found like our student, experiences mirror our educator experiences, and that they say and share a lot of the same things. And that's part of the goal and the work here is when we're creating more safe and welcoming spaces for our educators, it translates to, the same for our students. And so that is, a high priority of the work. We just need to be creating more safe and welcoming schools for our students and our educators.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And I think this is the last time that,
I can have one more time.
more time? Okay, then I can save
We'll
it
throw
for
a
then.
party. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. All right, we're going to backtrack to board committee liaison reports. DAC, FAC. Paula, Alexis, or I'll start with the DAC.
So the DAC met last Wednesday, and I'm trying to recall what we talked. No, it was really important conversations. They covered a lot of ground. Mostly they reported out on their experience with getting the survey out there to schools, presenting before, I think particularly the accountability committees and such to get feedback on the spending priorities. And they're making great progress. I just saw an email today that went out, or a text yesterday that went out to STEM Launch asking the parents on that committee for their feedback around spending priorities. So,
Okay, Alexis?
Yeah, FAC met this morning and got a presentation on 2.4 and student devices, where we are with that, and 5C. So, and there's not enough days in the year to know all about school finance. So it's always so helpful. And Gina and her team just do a great job. So I think there were some questions and they were answered right away. And I believe they're presenting to us in May on 5C. Yes. Yeah.
Courtney?
I was unable to attend this month's meeting due to a little one with an ear infection.
Okay, sorry. All right, review of board bylaws. Okay, we've had this already come up, and Phil, Kathy, is there anything you want to add before, or I guess I can just say this. I will entertain a motion to adopt the revised board bylaws as presented.
I would like to add something. There is the language about optional language on. It's already. There is language in the bylaws that should bear some discussion on whether you want to include the optional piece about, let's see, it's on, I don't know what page it is, but it's section 5.9. Option for consideration. What the optional language is during discussions, board members will strive to make their comments, questions, and opinions known in a concise and efficient manner appropriate for the matter being addressed.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, that was a way of saying don't go on too long. We did used to have something in there about a time limit that was never really adhered to, not really ever violated, but just to make it more appropriate. So then I guess I would entertain a motion to approve the bylaws as amended. Or do we have to vote on accepting that, or can we?
I think it'd be clearest to vote on whether you want to include that optional language and then the motion to approve the bylaws.
All right, so I will first entertain a motion to include that language in the bylaws.
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion about that?
I do wonder a little bit, concise and efficient manner, that's not really measurable. And so if instead of maybe having that in there, why we would need anything at all, or making it something that's measurable and tangible.
Okay. Any,
So I see in 5.9, it still says approximately 10 minutes. Would that stay in, or is that option to consider? So that comes out?
it would stay in if we didn't approve the option to consider. Anybody else have any feelings, thoughts about it? Okay, we do have a motion that we have to vote on, and that's whether or not to accept the option for the consideration.
Director Assad Lucas?
Aye.
Director Battistelli?
Aye.
Director Goldstein?
Aye.
Director Marsh Holshin? Aye. Director Potter?
No.
Okay, so then does that take the 10 minutes out of there? No?
No, we have to vote for that.
Okay, but there's no motion to strike that. I mean, somebody'd have to make a motion to strike that?
Correct.
And it is approximately, it's not like a set, it's also not concrete, but.
To
Anybody?
Director Potter's point, is that something then to put at the very end, approximately 10 minutes? Because again, it's not a hard set
It's
rule.
before it as of now.
But I'm saying, so change 5.9, having during discussion, but end it with approximately 10 minutes.
I don't think then there's a reason to change it. Like, if we just leave the 10 minutes in there, then, I mean, that, because the option for consideration is just rewording it to give, I think, a little bit of flexibility, but just making sure that comments concise and efficient and are relevant to the matter being discussed. But then if we still want a time limit in there, then there's probably no reason then to change it.
Well, in my opinion, I think that the part that we just inserted is more just of a guideline to follow, to give guidance to the board members on what the expectation might be.
So then if we want to change that, then somebody needs to
Make
make a motion to that.
Can I have clarity what we are going to change it to?
The option, so switching out what's currently in there, that approximately the 10-minute one, and switching it for the option for consideration. So I guess I will make a motion to change that language. Is that not what we do?
We just
That's what
voted
the
on.
board just voted
Oh,
to
so then
adopt.
it's changed?
Well,
No.
no, it still says approximately 10 minutes, but then it also has the option, or it doesn't say option for consideration, it's the option we considered about giving us guidance as far as what that looks like.
Correct.
Oh, okay, got it.
So-
So it's not changing the actual language of it, it's just,
It's adding that option.
Adding it.
That was what was just voted on. If you want to make a motion to
I'm sorry,
change or.
Kathy. A point of clarity. Director Marsh Holshin asked, and we all were just told that it was one or the other, not adding that. No?
No.
That's what I asked.
No,
That's what I asked. So sorry, just to clarify, the option for consideration would go following 5.9. So 5.9 would stay as read, and then the option would be after it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Would it be helpful if Kathy just read it from start to finish so that board members are clear on exactly what the language is?
it's right here.
Okay. No, I get that.
All right. Any other discussion? Okay, this is to vote on accepting these amended bylaws.
I don't believe there's been an actual motion made.
Oh, okay, well, I will now entertain a motion to adopt the revised bylaws, board bylaws as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Actually, she just made the motion, so all we need is a second.
Oh,
Second.
I need a lesson in Robert's rules. Is there any discussion?
Director Assad Lucas,
Aye.
Director Battistelli,
Aye.
Director Goldstein,
Aye.
Director Marsh Holshin,
Aye.
Director Potter.
No.
All right. Debrief of March 6th community engagement meeting when we were at Vantage Point. Just to refresh people's memory, we spent the first part of it with students, asking them questions about their lives at Vantage Point and what they liked about it, and they really poured their hearts out to us. And then we had a community engagement session and got a little preview of some of the things coming out in Blueprint. So, who wants to start?
I did a lot of thinking after I heard the students talk, and I was trying to pull together the major themes that I heard. And from the student population, I heard a lot about the size of high schools and the fact that sometimes the students would feel like they were an anonymous face in large high schools, that they didn't have a person or people that they could really connect with, whether that be another peer or an educator. So size was one of the big takeaways I brought from that. Also, I think maybe we would all benefit from a 9-week discovery session with Priestley. And we want to do a motion on that because I could use some time management skills. No, but seriously, he received a lot of wonderful reviews, and I look forward to meeting him. Other takeaways are really just the desire to connect was a huge piece. The students' desires to connect with each other in safe ways where they felt recognized, seen, and as one student said, heard.
Yeah, I would just echo that, and I think, again, what I said in my comments, that they know what's working for them and what's not. And so adding that into what we choose to do policy-wise, I think does matter. The Blueprint piece was really interesting. I think my table talked a lot about needing more education, and I feel that too, as the daughter of a middle school principal, the idea of a K-8 or a K-7, I think I just grew up in a school that thought that that was too far of having kids in an age range. But if it's actually showing that it's more benefit, I think the community would want to hear that and needs to hear that. The feedback on the kind of CTE stuff is the wheel option, giving them more chance to try out everything, because that's a lot to put on a maybe 12-year-old or 11-year-old, what they kind of want to go to in a path. So I think having that option would be very great. So.
All right, so for me, the Blueprint portion, I loved all the parents and community members and staff members that came out to share their opinions with us. I would love to see this grow and maybe find other ways to connect with community members so that we can get a good sample size and good voice from the community. Anytime we have, such a large district and such a small engagement session, it's always causes a little bit of pause when we're looking at some of that feedback for me. But my table was great. They were really engaged in all of their discussions, and so thank you for the staff and the community members that came out for that. Vantage Point, meeting with those students, it's always special. As somebody that was a graduate from an alternative high school myself, I love to see how hopeful they are. I love to see that their struggles have not held them back from dreaming really big and making good goals, whether it's to be a pilot or to own their own welding company someday. It's really inspiring to see how transformative and healing almost their experience at Vantage Point has been. And I would agree with Paula. I think everyone needs a discovery session, but I'm mostly impressed with the staff's ability to give these kids kind of that wraparound support, especially in the SEL space, so that they're all leaving being really socially and emotionally aware and being able to continue that after high school. So like always, love meeting with the students, and I always love their brutal honesty.
Yeah, I think just to echo what everyone else has said about the Discovery program, as a mental health therapist, I think that's pretty amazing. And what I really appreciated about it is how it cultivated them building a relationship with one another along with the school, the educators and school culture. But just watching the dynamics of the students with each other while speaking was pretty amazing. And I think what I really loved hearing about is the mock trial experience. And in these group of students who were not prepared the same way as maybe other teams were, going into that courtroom and just nailing it and doing a phenomenal job. And I can tell you, being in a courtroom is not fun, especially depending on why you're there. But even as a professional who has to testify in court, it's really stressful and it's not enjoyable. And they did share how they were stressed and all that, but they just made it seem so easy and were so graceful about it. And so, yeah, I'm just really excited for them of moving forward with that and getting other opportunities. And so, yeah, with the blueprint part of it, I got to sit at a table with a couple parents who were middle school parents and just listening to their experience as parents and their students' experiences and how different they were, but some similar, and just listening to their perspective of what they appreciate with the district, the direction the district is moving to provide further experiences for their students, and even students that they will be in middle school if they're soon. And I was just reflecting back while listening to them of the parent myself, and going to have my second one in middle school next year. And it's been a few years since I've done the middle school thing, and so I have a lot of my own anxiety and stress about it as a parent. And so just knowing that we continue to strive to make sure that our kids' needs are being met and that students of all levels are getting the opportunities all opportunities they can. So yeah, it was just a great session.
I like that you mentioned the mock trial because it reminded me of another big takeaway I wanted to highlight, which is that they mentioned that the teachers would often take a subject and add their own sort of flair to it or particular details and nuance to it. So maybe during the civil rights period, they would focus on a particular moment that the students didn't know about. And the way I read it is that our students are eager for those critical thinking challenges. They're eager for those really challenging educational situations, regardless of what school they might be in. It's sort of a recognition of their capabilities, and they saw it as sort of a sign of respect to them as learners. And that was another big takeaway.
Thank you. I'm always amazed at what goes on at Vantage Point over the years, because I have gone there quite a bit over the years. I've met a lot of kids from there. Alan has been an amazing administrator. He really gives these kids his everything, and he's big on trying to give them opportunities that they wouldn't necessarily participate in a bigger school. It's not that the opportunity is not there. It's just that they have a hard time connecting. Discovery is a good thing. A lot of our schools have tried it in one degree or another, but it's something that only works if you do it with fidelity. And Vantage Point and Crossroads have implemented it and kept it going with fidelity for over 10 years. And it's a part of their culture, and it's like their boot camp when you first get there, and it really does change their point of view. As a K-8 parent, I found some of the conversation very interesting in the blueprint about, because not everybody's a big fan of K-8s. And some of the parents in my group, their kids were not in K-8s, and they liked their kids being in 6-8s. So, there's all kinds of different perspectives, and, like, we're a great district of giving lots of different choices to our students. So that was good. So I thought it was a good meeting. Would have liked to have seen more people there, but, we'll get there. All right, on to minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meetings of February 28th, 2024, and March 6th, 2024, and the minutes of February 28th, 2024 work study session as presented.
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Director Assad Lucas?
Aye.
Director Battistelli?
Aye.
Director Goldstein?
Aye.
Director Marsh Holshin?
Aye.
Director Potter?
Aye.
On to consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items D2 and D3 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I'm sorry, who motioned? Director Assad Lucas?
Aye.
Director Battistelli?
Aye.
Director Goldstein?
Aye.
Director Marsh Holshin?
Aye.
Director Potter?
Aye.
Okay, application for eligibility as a designated career and technical school, Future Forward Bowman.
And, excuse me, so those are both under the consent agenda.
Oh,
I
well
apologize, I
then.
didn't catch that on the last one, so.
Okay, never mind. Future agenda items. April 10th, we have our work study session. That is not the first Wednesday, it's the second Wednesday, because we will have our spring break the first week in April. You can see the agendas the items are in the agenda. Then we will have another meeting on April 17th. Don't forget, April 20th is the 5-Star 5K. I have to register. And I know there's a few unified basketball games left. I did go, by the way, to a unified basketball game. I was thinking of you, Amira, because it was North Glen versus Thornton. And the game was awesome. Thornton won. I almost wore a Thornton shirt today, even though we didn't bet on it. But I thought about it. But it was just fun, because those are the kind of games where there's just no winners or losers. Everybody's cheering everybody on. The kids get a couple of chances to make a shot. And it was very well attended. So anyway.
Well, and just to share really quick, so some of our clients who have disabilities and do Special Olympics will talk about their experience while doing the unified games in high school. So it's just really fun to make that connection with them as adults. So
Yeah. Is there anything for the good of the cause? I did it. We are adjourned. And thank you, Priscilla, for standing in tonight.